Hi, I'm Yogesh Chen, co-founder and director of Solar Hub New Zealand. Today I'm going to talk about the shareholder value creation. Let me take you through that. First of all, let's cover what is your investment for. And we have listed down the 4 key points in here. The first one is we're going to deploy your capital into the PPA energy generating assets, and that is very important, and that actually forms the core part of our capital raise, and we'll talk in today's video in detail about what that is. It is also about scaling installation and capacity on the national operation as well. The third one is we are also exploring to build a nationwide VPP, which is very important for the resilience for future. And the last is to expand the infrastructure ownership by growing the asset base and therefore creating that value for our shareholders. Let me go more into detail about what purchase power agreement is. From the conversations that I have been having, this has been an area where people have been asking a lot of questions and they're trying to understand what it is. Through the next couple of slides, I'll try to explain what actually it means so that you have a better understanding before you invest with us. So when we talk about purchase power agreement, it is about Solar Hub installing and owning the solar generating assets on commercial rooftops. That is the most important thing. What it means is that we operate and maintain the assets for the landowners and the tenants in there. Now that maintenance also includes the insurance on our part. What it means for the customer, whether it is owner-occupied or it is tenanted, is that they buy the energy at a fixed and a cheaper price, which is normally about 25-30% depending on the structure of the PPA, than the grid rate which they are currently paying for. Very interesting, because that's where the saving starts for them. For any PPA, as I said, it depends on how the structure of and the term is, means that it could last from 15 to 25 years. Typically, you'll find a lower rate for a longer term and a slightly higher rate for a shorter term. So let me take you through what does that mean for the next part, which is the financial elements of it. So let me cover why PPA is a win for all the stakeholders. We have identified 5 key stakeholders in the PPA modeling. Let's start with our economy, New Zealand, which we all love. What PPA does in here is that it accelerates to the renewable energy. So every roof that we try to put solar through PPA model, we are one step closer to create a renewable energy adoption, which is a national target for us. Through our IPO, we are giving the chance to our Kiwis to be part of the local ownership of the assets. We do PPA currently, but mainly funded through most of the organizations that are offshore. What it does is that through our IPO increase, you own it and you see it, you feel it, and it's owned by Kiwis, built by Kiwis as well, which is really cool. Along with that, as we keep building up the infrastructure, we are creating jobs, which is quite critical and important for our economy as a whole. We look at our grid. Because there will be an increase in the demand of energy, it helps us to create a grid resilience, which is very important and critical for the growth of our nation. The next part is looking at the landlords and the tenants. We've got 2 scenarios here. It could be an owner-occupied property, which means that you are the tenant, or you could be a landlord and you've got a tenant who is going to use the energy that we're going to generate. Let's talk about if you are a landlord. What it means is that there is zero capex or ongoing operating cost on your side. Because the investment is done through Solar Hub, maintained by Solar Hub, including the insurance for the product, means that you don't have any capex or ongoing operating cost, which is really cool for most of the businesses. Of course, once you have a solar, it goes a higher property value, which means that through the revenue generation, you have an auxiliary revenue added to your bottom line. How cool is that for any landlord? Now let's look at the tenants. If you are a tenant, which means that you will get cheaper power, which is the renewable energy power, typically between 20 to 30% lower than the grid energy, which is really cool. And then, of course, we all love the ESG part of our business, which means we want to be environmentally savvy. We look at the social aspect and the governance around it. That contributes, and you get the full value out of it. It's not the solar hub. Solar hub has its own from the investment part, but you as the tenant, who is the recipient and the person who uses the power, gets the full value proposition of the ESG part, which is very important for all of the Kiwis as well. Now, when you look at solar hub, of course, we have got a long-term reoccurring revenue, and that's what we need to create that value for our shareholders. For the investors, means that your money is being directed to building up an infrastructure, asset owned, and of course the inflation protected returns to support the value creation. When I look at the inflation, what it means is that the investment you do and the price we fix has got a long-term fixed price. Of course, it accelerates through the period of time slightly to deal with the rising power cost, but you are able to then lock it against the inflation. So how cool is that for us to be investing in on an overall 360? It creates a value proposition for all the stakeholders that are involved into this IPO capital raising project. Before I end today's session, I do want to invite all the Kiwis to be part of the next generation, the future of our country. Together, we can build a very resilient, asset-based revenue generation and a really key value proposition for our stakeholders. So I invite you to look at this and be part of the journey, and together we can create a better sustainable future. Thank you.